Thank you, John. Okay, let's have a look, before we do, at the game coming up on Sunday. Just a reflection on last week's game against Featherstone. Not so much the game, how did you come out of it? How did your squad come out of it?
Oh, they've come out of it in a very positive manner. I mean, psychologically, I think we can feel good about ourselves because we challenged one of the top two teams in the division, and I think we're a tad unfortunate not to get something out of it, but we didn't. That's what happens, It's 20 points to 16, and they went away smiling. But really, we can feel good about ourselves, feel that we're improving, and also feel as well that we've got some players coming back for this week. So we're picking from more strength than we did previously.
Will there be any guys missing from last week's hectic battle?
Well, Lewis Roberts, obviously, he picked up a suspension from the week before, so he's obviously out. But it's more about the lads coming back in, which excites me, because I really do feel we're not picking from full strength, but we're picking from a much more representative squad than we did previously.
And that performance, as you say, John, it adds to the upward curve that you were looking for all the time.
I think the first half is the best 40 minutes we've had since I've been here, to tell you the truth. I thought they were really good in that first 40 minutes, and all credit to the players that were out there. But I'm delighted in how every member of the squad's contributing, and I'm also delighted that when they are getting the opportunity, they're giving me a headache. And I think young Spedding did that last week, because just as Joe Edge had done previously, just as Will Telek has been doing as well, and that's great. They're having to be patient, but when they're getting their opportunity, they're saying, have a look at me, and I'm a good player, and it makes my job even more difficult, but it's something that I relish.
Off to Whitehaven then at the weekend, a place that throughout your career you'll know well. It's good rugby league country up there. And they'll look forward to Widnes Vikings visiting them on Sunday, won't they?
Oh, definitely, yeah. It'd be a big game for them, no doubt about that. But they're always a very difficult proposition in their own backyard, and we're fully aware of that. If you go to Cumbria, you've got to work hard in order to come away with anything. And it doesn't matter what team you're playing, it doesn't matter which personnel they've got out there, it just seems to be part of the DNA of the clubs up there. So yes, it'll be difficult. We'll have the logistics of travelling in this heat. It'll be very, very warm. But the fact is, we feel we can overcome that and make sure that come 3 o'clock we can represent ourselves in a positive manner.
Interesting one, John. As a former player and as a coach of quite a few clubs, it's not a myth then, a trip to Cumbria. You're in for an afternoon.
Oh, you do, yeah, very much so, yeah. It ain't a myth, no. Anybody who's taken the field and played against those fellas, they'll realise it's not a myth, and they'll realise that the challenge. I mean, the amateur game is so strong up there that inevitably it produces some clever players, some tough players, and some players who can represent their local club with great pride, and they inevitably do that. They've got a sprinkling as well of overseas players who are pretty good as well. The halfback Williams is a really good player. I like the centre Evans also, who was strong down their right hand side, and Ryan King, and obviously Dionne. I think he's featured for a number of years for Whitehaven in a very positive manner. So they've got good local talent, but they're just topped up as well with some quality overseas talent as well.
You just touched on it there, John, that the Vikings are in town as far as Whitehaven are concerned. During your playing career, and now as a coach where you've been in the Championship for some years now, you know the feel of this competition. Do you think Widnes Vikings is a scalp?
Of course it is, yeah. It's bound to be, yeah. It's a big club, isn't it? It's a big club with great facilities. But what I think we've got to do, we've got to realise where we are now, and we've got to rebuild and progress. And I think at this level, though, it doesn't matter whether it's Widnes Vikings, whether it's Dewsbury Rams, whether it's Batley Bulldogs, anybody can beat anybody else. And that's what we've got to be wary of. And I think the big challenge for this week is, yes, it's easy to get up for a game against Featherstone because you know full well if you're not ready to play, you might get embarrassed. Well, they rectified that and they played really well. But what we've got to do, the challenge now, is to make sure that we're equally as intense, equally as focused, equally as ready to play when we're going up to Cumbria.
Yeah. Whitehaven on the very west coast of Cumbria. As a player, John, you'll have gone up there in midwinter. The challenges that perhaps the Cumbrian winter and snow would have brought, it's going to be very different this Sunday. We already know, you've mentioned it, the conditions. So you'll have to prepare your squad for that as well.
Oh, very much so. And you know, perhaps the bench will reflect our sort of viewpoint about that, because we're going to have to make sure that our interchange policies are a really good one, and we're going to have to make sure that we're properly hydrated and we've been fed properly so that our energy levels are high for that game, because it's certainly going to be very draining. It's going to be very, very hot indeed. But we've encountered that before, and we've played pretty well in adverse conditions. I mean, I believe we've got a pretty healthy, a pretty fit squad. I think Bob Bezick's done a great job with regard to that, and I'd back us to be going at the end of the game against anybody, including full-time teams.
And a final word on Whitehaven, John. There's no reason to believe that they're looking to finish their season on a high as well, and that's the challenge for you.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, well, that's what you try to do. I mean, Whitehaven, I believe, aren't going to go down now, and they're not going to get in the playoffs, and it's similar to us. We're not going to go down, and I don't think we're going to get in the playoffs, being brutally honest. But what you've got to do is endeavour to play really well, so that it's positive as your end of the season, and it's something you can build upon in your pre-season for next year, because if you finish the season indifferently, it's a long off season and pre-season, so it needs to be very positive indeed.
We know that Whitehaven will have their traditional core of fans in that ground. Good atmosphere, as it always has been throughout history in there. So if the Vikings fans can make their way up on a nice sunny day into Cumbria, nice day out, and a nice game of rugby in front of them as well.
Tremendous, yeah, it will be. And as you rightly said, I remember going up there in ankle deep in mud. Well, it certainly ain't going to be ankle deep in mud this time. And there's lots of terrace up there where people can sit and watch the game and enjoy a beer should they want to do that. So I just think it would be a great day out. And if you set off early enough, you can get a bit of a walk on the fells in as well, can't you? So, get up to there and get behind us once again, and we'll endeavour to do you proud.
Thanks for your time as ever, John. Enjoyed the game.
Pleasure.